Yep, being alive, really, just like what I'm all about. A lot of people are, wondering, so, am I really into it? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. I like it. I do think it's all right.
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Rookies. We are the underdog together. We are on the quest for Dynasty domination. How's it going over there,
I am rostering rookies, and so I am feeling pretty good myself. Two in the bag. I think three more full Dynasty rookie drafts left for me. So
Danny?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm grabbing some tangibles. How are you doing, Christian?
I'm good, man. We have two more coming up, or I have two more. Well, no, both of us. Yeah, we're both in those leagues. We have two more coming up. I didn't really have a lot of picks in these first couple drafts, so it'll be a lot more fun once I get going on these other two. I am pretty excited to see how this all shook out and and walk through it and talk through it for sure. Um, yeah, so without further ado, we kind of didn't do rankings or anything last week because the draft was coming up. But we are going to review our first two giant issue drafts, and luckily one of them is our IDP league, so that
Yeah.
is a lot of fun. It gives us a different dynamic than just the other standard leagues that we're in. So I'm excited, man. So without further ado, do you just want to go ahead and crack into the for the belt draft?
Yeah, all right, man. That sounds good.
Okay.
Um, that was a fun draft, For me, it was a lot of ups and downs. This is a 12 team single quarterback
Yep.
PPR league, so 3 rounds, 36 guys, and a lot of movement. This is one of those leagues where I'd say maybe 25% is original picks, a lot of people circulating.
Yeah.
Um, but one person who didn't move off of their pick was the guy that had the 1-1.
Hmm.
That was me. Hello. Hi, everyone. Daniel here. I got Jeremiah Love to start things
Nice.
off.
Yep.
And I think
Huge.
that's a pretty popular pick. And I'm pretty pumped about it. He joins Bijan Robinson
Mm.
and Quinshawn Judkins on my team. So should be something to really build the future on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think you could have or should have done anything else there. Jeremiah Love should be the number one overall pick in any league you're in for sure. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's going to be a strong running back room going forward. No issues there. So then we move on to the 1-2, and that was Carnell Tate. I also think that makes a lot of sense. I know there was like some hubbub about the landing spot. Some people didn't like it. I personally like it. I like pairing him with Cam Ward as the like clear alpha going forward, in at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that there could have been some landing spots where he might have been less contested, but not really.
Uh-huh.
For them to have a starting quarterback, a young established quarterback, and a somewhat of a direction, and for him to just slot in as the number one target for Cam Ward, that's I think better than going to the Raiders or something like that where the transition hasn't really happened at the quarterback position yet. So for him to hit the ground running on something that's 1 year into, settled at the quarterback position, this is a good spot right here. I think he's 1-2 everywhere. That's not a super flex if I were to guess. So,
Yeah.
but then, yeah, I thought the next pick was a little surprising.
Yeah, so the next pick was Jadarian Price. I don't think it's that surprising when you count the fact that the guy that had the 1-2 also had the 1-3.
Yeah.
So I think he's just spraying that positional value and like, okay, well, I got my receiver. Let me take the only other running back that might be worth something. So I think it made sense for him specifically. A bit
Hmm.
surprising. position wise, just based on other drafts, it's definitely going to be different. But I think the fact that he had both those picks makes a lot of sense. And it doesn't seem like there was a ton of people clamoring to move up. So I don't know that the value would have been there for him to like move back and try to get Price, you know?
No, I agree with that. I was happy to see it. I thought it was kind of a bold move to go. You look at these guys in a vacuum and you think it goes Love and then it goes the next three or four receivers or whatever. So for him to just plant the flag and go for Price
Yeah.
uh, inspired me in many ways. So now that's good for him because his next pick was the 1-6, and I don't know if Price necessarily would have made it there.
Yeah.
This league running back is king, so it made sense for him to pay the price to
To get
there you go,
Price.
to
Yeah,
get
for
Price.
sure.
So, but not too
Um,
bad.
So then I'm just gonna kind of speed this up just
Yeah.
slightly. I'm gonna rattle through the next five, I think, before we get to our next big surprise. Anything you want to say, just either stop me or we can talk about it once I get through them. But the 1-4 ended up being Makai Lemon. The 1-5 was Kenyon Sadiq. I believe the guy traded up to make sure he could acquire Sadiq there. Jordan Tyson after that at the 1-6, KC Concepcion at the 1-7, and then Omar Cooper Jr. at the 1-8. I think those are all fairly chalky. I know people were already getting nervous and trying to trade out of that area. This is just one of those drafts that not a lot of people are stoked. And I think pretty much after the 1-8, you kind of start taking people that you like and maybe not consensus board type stuff.
Yeah, no, it definitely rattles off in the order how much you would expect, and then like you're saying, that's just wildly unknown. People trying to get in and get out of that last little quarter there of the first round. Um, I thought it was interesting. I think there's probably going to be some good values over the next like 10 picks. It's just really we're so early in the process that it's hard to know like what these teams really expect or plan from these guys. So
Yeah.
yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty impressive that people really started just kind of flag planting pretty fast in the first round. You don't always see it that quick.
Yeah, for sure. On that note, we go to the 1-9 and it's Jonah Coleman coming up, which is the next like big running back name off the board. I do think it makes sense. I mean, he was a fourth rounder, I believe, in the NFL draft and going to a team that uses their running back quite a bit and he's a dual threat guy, so I know people are excited. Um, I think the guy that took him at the 1-9 wanted to move out, like tried and couldn't. So he even said, like, okay, well, I'm gonna reach. So this might seem early, but that's what I mean is like all the rest of this draft is just, oh, I'm going to take my guy, depending on where you're at. And so I think I like the Jonah Coleman pick. I really do. I do think it's early for a fourth round RB, especially after RJ Harvey last year. I mean, I know he didn't have like the best rookie season that everyone was expecting him to have, but just coming from that and then immediately just taking the next Denver running back that goes off the board in the first round is a little scary to me. But I also think it makes sense, especially given probably his roster construction.
Yeah, I think there was I don't know. I don't want to get too deep in the behind the scenes, but he was definitely chit-chatting on this pick. Wasn't quite sure where he was going to end up. So I think he made a smart move. I don't think Coleman was coming back, and he kind of represents a last guy with like a defined role or a little bit of heat coming in of these high-end guys. So it was a good move. And I think. Yeah, I think he was worried about taking too many Cleveland players since he had just picked up
Concepcion, yeah.
Concepcion, so he wasn't going Boston here, which would have maybe been the argument for the player to pick at that spot.
Yeah, potentially, which he does go off at the 110 at the very next pick, does Denzel Boston, and then Eli Stowers goes at the 111, and that is to the guy that also took Tate, Price, and Tyson. So he kind of shotgunned that first round there, got two receivers, a running back, and a tight end. It's hard to ask for more than that.
Yeah, that was a pretty good little haul right there for him. So I think, yeah, this first round, I think it went the way it was expected to.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, it's nice to see. I wasn't sure if both the tight ends were going to end up going in the first round, but that's how it went. And I was glad I had made some pre-draft moves. I'm going to tell you guys all my secrets, but yeah, I was scared that I wasn't going to get any of these first two tight ends, and it looks like that was a pretty justified fear.
Yeah.
Um,
And so you went ahead and secured that tight end before you got Harold Fannin,
Yep,
right?
I got Harold Fannin. Yeah, I gave up a
Yeah.
2-6 and a 27 first, which I think is pretty good for me as far as the way my squad was looking. It was a must address position. So,
Fair enough.
but
I like the moves for sure. I so the next three of the next four picks were all you. So I'm gonna rattle off
yeah.
those four, and you can get into how you felt here, or I guess you can take it away if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna say, I wanted that tight end. I knew it wasn't gonna happen. So I also need some wide receiver help. I traded up to get the 112. It was kind of a wacky trade. We don't have to talk too much about it if nobody wants to, but two guys that I had to have. I really wanted three wideouts, but it didn't happen. So I had the 112 and I went for Chris Bell, who I think has a pretty outrageously wide open opportunity there if he can bounce back from the injury. And then I went with Antonio Williams, who is a player that I liked through the process, not as much as AJ. Apparently, that's fine. Um, but going to Washington is a wide open wide receiver room, and with the third round capital and kind of just some good production he had with Clemson, it made a lot of sense for him to get an early second pick. I think he's one of the biggest risers since the draft
Yeah,
compared to the kind of pre-draft rankings for the rest of these guys. So felt good about that. And then I really wanted to get Jeremy Bernard at the 2-3, but he got taken at the 2-2 by Lance. So Lance got himself a nice little draft here with Concepcion and Coleman and now Bernard. So after that, I was on full tilt. There was a couple of wide receivers I liked, but I went back to kind of pre-draft analysis and I just grabbed Emmett Johnson at the 2-3.
yeah,
I know he's behind Walker, but I'm a Chiefs fan, and I thought that Johnson was the second best running back in this class. So a little bit of injury history with Walker. This is all the stuff people are saying.
yeah.
Johnson still has an opportunity. So I thought at this pick right here, I would just go ahead and get the best player I saw on the board.
Yeah, no, I like the haul here. The two receivers are good flyers to take. We'll see what happens. I like Antonio Williams' landing spot just like everybody else does. So makes a lot of sense. And then yeah, Emmett Johnson, even without the injury history, Kenneth Walker hasn't been a true three down back his entire career in the NFL. So he's probably going to get spelled a little bit by, you presume, Johnson. I mean, that's a crowded running back room, but nobody that I don't think Johnson could beat out for the RB2 spot. So I like that. And then Lance grabbing Gio Bernard or Jeremy Bernard right there. It makes a lot of sense too. Um, so yeah, I like it. Next four, we got three running backs and a quarterback. So we have Nicholas Singleton go off the board. I think that makes sense. The landing spot is intriguing. I don't think it's impossible for him to end up over Spears and Pollard. Fernando Mendoza finally goes off the board at the 2-5. 2-6 is Adam Randall, right?
Yeah,
Uh, and then Katron Allen at the 2-7. The only one I don't love the Randall pick. I think he's like a big three down back type of guy. Um, uh, but or like third down power back, or sorry, not third down. Sorry, there's a band playing downstairs. It's a little distracting for me. Sorry if anybody can hear it in the recording. Um, he's like a power guy. I don't really see him being like a full-time guy. And then he's also behind Derrick Henry. Like I know Henry's older, but I I wasn't in love with that pick. It came out a little bit out of left field to me.
Yeah, yeah, no spoilers, but we did a 5 round IDP draft and I got Randall on a waiver claim
Yeah,
after 5 rounds. So for him to go halfway through the second round here, it's a little very surprising.
yeah,
But it just goes to show the cliff that this running back class falls off, you know.
yeah.
So the same guy goes with Katron Allen at the
Which I
very
like.
next pick.
I like that better.
So
So
yeah, you know, 2 shots in
yeah,
which order? Um, but it makes sense. I don't know. I think there's another back we probably would have slotted in there with Allen if we were going 1-1 there, or you know, to grab
yeah.
two of them at that spot. But
I
it makes
probably
sense.
I probably would have just punted the running back. I would have grabbed Allen and then probably Ted Hurst would have been the way
Yeah,
I would have gone,
sure.
and just kind of punted the rest of the running backs there. There's just not a lot of juice to this running back class. So, but
No.
that's how I would have done it. But we'll see. Who knows? Maybe Derrick Henry will retire randomly, and then Randall will take over the job.
Boom.
Make me look stupid. All right, so next up we got four wide receivers coming up. We got Chris Brazzell, Deshaun Stribling, Malachi Fields, and Ted Hurst at the 211. I was trying to trade into the 211 um, to take Ted Hurst. Couldn't get it done, unfortunately. But I like that pick a lot. Honestly, all three of these picks I think have some upside to them. I'm worried about the pairing of Brazel with Bryce Young. I just don't see Bryce Young as like a super downfield deep threat passer. But Stribling going into a great offense in San Francisco, Fields potentially being like the number two guy to Malik Neighbors eventually, and then Ted Hurst, I think, has a lot of upside, as you guys know if you've watched the pod at all.
Yeah, I think the guy drafting all these players watches the pod. Just saying, it's looking pretty sharp for him. But
Yeah,
no, I think Brazel could surprise. But it's going to take a polished offense to make him an effective player. So that's a stretch for Carolina. But Stribling, geez, dude. I mean, I love the player, but you know, this happens every year. You
yeah.
get excited about a guy who you call a sleeper, and then he gets blown up and drafted by a crazy team. You know, it's usually the Ravens or something. This time it's the Niners. So you try not to hit your wagon too heavily to that chaos. Fields, is, I think he's got a ton of upside. That's the player that I was considering at the 2-3. So good
Gotcha.
value here. And then Hurst, like you're saying, like we're saying, like everyone's saying, Ibuka and whatever Godwin we get, if it's the good Godwin, it's going to really slow things down for Hurst. But it's definitely a good, stable offense that is pass heavy enough to produce a you know a viable third option. So if
Yeah.
he can be the superstar that you know we all saw on the film, then you know it's going to be a great value at the 211 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things like Godwin's not long for this world necessarily. Well, for the world, I hope, but not long for the NFL. So you never know. It could be Abuka and Hurst going forward as the one and two there. I mean, I know Jalen McMillan's there, but I feel like he'd fits like nicely into that slot type role with those two guys on the field. So that's kind of why I liked the pick there a lot. And that's why I
Yes.
wanted him. But I guess I didn't give up enough to go up and get him. So, excuse me. All right, so next up we got Mike Washington going at the 212, Oscar Delp at the 3-1. Pretty interesting pick. And then I took Skylar Bell at the 3-2. Was trying to pair Hurst and Bell. But I guess I couldn't trade up to do that. So
Dang, dude. You should have got on my DMs. Dude, that 2-6 was hot. No. No, I liked what AJ was doing. He got serious about a couple of guys and made his way. He traded back to get the 3-1 and the 3-11 and made a ton of trades and ended up walking away from this draft with only third round picks. But he prioritized Delp at the 3-1, which I thought was a bold move, but his other pick was also a bold move. But this guy he's got a feeling, he's got to go with it. And you have a similar situation with Skylar Bell. I'm sure you're over the moon to have picked him up. You got
Yeah.
to go. You got to. This is the third round, dude. This is where the finesse comes in.
Yeah, I like Skylar Bell a lot. I don't think it's impossible that he could end up beating out Keon Coleman at some point. Probably not this year, but who knows? He might sneak in there as like a
Probably
third
day one.
option.
You never know. Yeah.
He's got to contend with Khalil Shakir though too. So this to me is an upside pick, pairing him with Josh Allen. I don't know how long DJ Moore is going to last. So it was just that made the most sense to me going forward. And like other things like I thought about like an Elijah Surratt, but I have Zay Flowers. I thought about Zachariah Branch, but I have Drake London. And I just personally don't tend to do that. I finally got out from under my Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden stack in one of our leagues. So I just don't like pairing two wide receivers on the same team. It's not my thing. So that's why those guys were kind of off the board. And then the running back value to me was just not really there. It's all like crazy flyers, which may end up working, but who knows? Speaking of which, the next up was Claiborne going at the 3-3, Elijah Surratt at the 3-4, Eli Heidenreich at the 3-5, which I think is sneaky cool. I traded this pick for Alvin Kamara. Don't know if I should have done that. I was kind of hoping that like maybe Kamara would get dealt after the ETN signing. Sorry, the Achan signing. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So who knows? That might have been a wasted trade, but we'll see going forward. And then Zachariah Branch at the 3-6.
Yeah, it's gonna be great value on Surratt. I like that Heidenreich pick. It's kind of I didn't expect him to go off the board per se in the 3 round draft, but like a guy going for it, Claiborne probably going to be a sneaky good value. And I mean, all these players, they're spicy, if you got the capital.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think Kamara is still going to do some stuff, man. That he's still lightning in a bottle, man. He's just getting old.
Yeah, I mean he's getting old. He'll be the potentially like a 1-2 there. I like him better as a receiver than Achan, so I think there's a potential for him to be. I know you hate that.
Not doing it.
But yeah, so that was kind of why I went for it. And then, like I said, on the off chance he got traded. So I'm gonna roll out just towards the end of the
Yeah,
draft here.
hit it.
We've got Rayadon, the tight end from New England, going up next. Kalen Black at the 3-8, Ty Simpson at the 3-9, Max Clare at the 3-10, Kevin Coleman at the 3-11, and Justin Jolly at the 3-12. I gotta say I like Claire and Jolly better than Rayadon.
Reardon.
Raiden, is that what it is? Okay. Um, but other than that, I feel again it was just people taking a flyer. Kalen Black, I guess makes sense. I was not really a huge fan of Black. And then, I like Max Clare. I think it's weird there. They still have all those tight ends, and they just took Terrence Ferguson last year. So that
Hmm.
seems awkward to me, but we'll see who ends up breaking out. And then Ty Simpson, like if you got the time to hold on to him, it is interesting in a league that there isn't tax squad spots. You're just gonna have to hang on to him, but we have pretty deep benches in this, so I don't think it's gonna hurt him too bad.
Yeah, I thought it was a good call. I thought that he was probably going to take Mendoza at the 111. So his squad doesn't have much behind Prescott. So it makes sense for him to try and
Like take a
sneak in
flyer.
some quarterback depth. Yeah, I'm still like, I'm extremely fortunate, to have picked up Tyler Shuck just kind of on a freebie, and that's that kind of depth at the quarterback position that you don't want to invest in a single QB league, but it can save your season when you got all these quarterbacks getting injured these days. So
Yeah.
you gotta have a backup plan.
Yeah, and we saw Matthew Stafford deal with injuries coming into last year. Like obviously he ended up playing and winning MVP, but he's older. It wouldn't be crazy for him to get hurt and Ty Simpson end up having to roll out there. So
It would be crazy, but yeah, not unheard of at all.
yeah,
That would
for
be
sure.
crazy. I like Coleman though. AJ's preaching about Coleman everywhere he goes. I heard him in the streets, in the
Okay.
pews, and all over the world. Yeah, I told him I was like, "How much are you bidding on Coleman?" And then he's like 2 minutes later traded back into the draft to pick him. I was like, "That's what I thought." Yeah, you go
Yeah,
get your
for
shit,
sure.
man.
All
So
right. Well, we'll roll over to the D League draft.
okay.
The first four picks are pretty similar-ish. Well, no, I guess not really. We'll talk about the first two. They were very much the same. Jeremiah Love and Carnell Tate go off one and two. Perfect there. The only difference here is Price obviously doesn't go, but then Jordan Tyson, and Casey Concepcion go off the board before Makai Lemon. How do you feel about that?
I thought it was crazy, man. I honestly, that's cool. I hope I get some Tyson somewhere, just because usually when I'm that hard, negative on a guy, he usually is like the next best thing in the world. So,
Yeah.
I thought that I was flirting with like maybe I'll take Concepcion at 5, and then so he goes at 4, and then yeah, some real Lemon haters. Great value at the 1-6 for Lemon, but I thought it was kind of crazy. I expected three wide receivers to go right there, but just not that three, and not
Yeah.
necessarily that order. But I
Yeah.
was happy. I got a little scared. I almost took Price at the 1-2 because I was worried someone's going to get thirsty for him. So I was happy to get Tate at the 1-2, and then 1-5 come back and get Price right there.
Yeah, price makes all the sense in the world there. It would have been juicy to get Lemon there, but I
Oh my
know
God.
your roster and running back was a very, very big need for you. So that was one of those stick in the course picks for sure.
Yeah, it would have been careless, but like amazing, to have
Yeah.
Lemon and Tate on I needed all the help I could get, but more than anything, I needed a second running back that I could start.
Yeah.
So I had to do it.
Yeah, that's fair. So after the 1-5, we go with the 1-6. That was friend of the pod, Danny, taking Makai Lemon. Makes a lot of sense. And then we had our first
Nice.
defensive player go off the board at the 1-7, and that was Sonny Styles. And I'm just going to kind of get into this really quickly with these next four picks. Sonny Styles goes at the 1-7. Then we have a defensive player little mini run here. We got Arvell Reese at the 1-8. Kenyon Sadiq, your pick, tight end at the 1-9. And then we had David Bailey to finish out the first round at the 1-10. That speaks to the weakness of this class because this is definitely the earliest defensive players who have ever gone. And I
Yeah.
will say for Styles, I'm fine with it. I
Hmm.
don't know that I'm taking an edge player this early. Like I
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, sorry, I was at the 1-9. I was playing this all out, and I thought I would take Styles, but I wouldn't probably jump for Bailey or for Reese, just for the same reasons you're saying. It's like they're kind of boom or bust and slow to
Yeah.
develop. They're either like lightning hot, or they're just a role player, a couple sacks here and there, real pop games, but almost lose that starting spot when they only have like a couple of assist or whatever. It's not necessarily a big points consistency. Whereas like going for linebacker, you can kind of anchor your whole squad off of that pick. So I don't
Yeah.
know. That might have been what you were about to say. Not quite sure.
No, pretty much. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like I get it. They are the two top edge players that went off the board in the draft, so that makes a lot of sense to me. In terms of, I guess, positional value or like where they went. But yeah, to me, Sonny Styles is going to be way more consistently scoring points for you. So that makes sense. And these other two guys, just, you never know. Like, you never know how long it's going to take them to start. Look at a guy like Arvo Weiss. Now, if the rumors of him playing inside and then just like being an edge on certain downs, that might help him out a lot because that is a really crowded edge room for the Giants. So Reese could end up working out. And then obviously, if Bailey is as good as people expect him to be, then yeah, sure, it might work out. But I just think the risk reward isn't as great. But I mean, they obviously just didn't like the rest of the um offensive players in this draft because I mean, even in the second round, we had one, two, three, four, five, six out of the 10 were also defensive players. So clearly everyone just kind of gave up on the rest of this class after Lemon.
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't know, man. Sadiq, it sneaks in there a little bit, but then yeah, it really isn't anybody. I mean, all right, so let's just roll, right? We got Downs at the 2-1,
Yeah.
and then you get Stowers there 2-2, Emmett Johnson 2-3, and then Omar Cooper is, obviously that's a big name, a first rounder in a lot of non-IDP drafts. He slips to the 2-4. But yeah, after him, it is kind of like, why not just take a defensive player
Yeah.
all the way through here? And yeah, that was, yeah, you got lucky I had the 2-4, but I also have Garrett Wilson. So
Yeah.
a player, Omar Cooper, that I was pretty excited about. Can't really stack Jets wide receivers. Not really a fantasy strategy for winning,
No.
but
Yeah, I mean that pick. First, the Caleb Downs pick. I love that pick. I
yeah,
do think defensive backs are you can kind of find them randomly for sure, but I also having a young stud like I started this league with Brian Branch, and that has been a huge boon to my success. Like just being able to set him there and not worry about it every single week he's on the field. And that's something that Caleb Downs could absolutely be. Stowers, we talked about, Emmett Johnson, makes sense as well. And then, yeah, I gave up a 28 first to go up and get Cooper. 28 is 70 years away. We'll all be dead by that time probably. So I'm not
fantasy
worried about
years.
it. So to me, it was like, okay, that was the most valuable in terms of pre-draft ranking player left on the board. I had one pick in this draft, so I ended up just sending you that to get him. So I was lucky that you already had Garrett Wilson. So yeah, I liked that move. It may not end up working out, especially not this year, but I do like the combination of him and Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I think it was a sharp way to roll. But yeah, I liked the next pick quite a bit.
Yeah, Jacob Rodriguez goes at the 2-5, the linebacker for the Dolphins. Makes a lot of sense. And this guy paired him with Caleb Downs. So I like building the back end of that defense. Then Chris Bell goes off the board. Ruben Bain, the edge for Tampa Bay. And then CJ Allen, the linebacker for Indianapolis. I also like a lot. Like, this is where I thought the value for these defensive players comes in. Jacob Rodriguez is probably going to immediately start for the Dolphins. CJ Allen is immediately going to come in and be a playmaker for the Colts. Bain, again, big boomer bust guy, but that I like that in the second more than I like, say, Bailey in the first.
And this is where we traditionally see these type of players coming off
Yeah.
anyway.
I mean, last year,
Um,
yeah, Abdul Carter went at like the 2-4 or the 2-5.
right.
So, but there's a lot more offensive talent, obviously. So I do like the Bain pick. And then to finish out the second round, we had Dylan Thieneman, the Chicago safety, and then I think it's AJ Hill for the Tennessee linebacker. I forget his first name. Apologies, but
Anthony, yeah.
Anthony Hill. Okay, so those two picks I like. Those were guys I had pegged to try and trade up for potentially, but they all went in the second round. I was hoping they would fall. And then we get back to the offensive players for
Yeah.
an entire round,
The
actually.
entire
So,
third, yeah.
so obviously everyone went defense heavy, but then you had Zachariah Branch go at the 3-1, Denzel Boston go at the 3-2, Antonio Williams at the 3-3, and Katron Allen at the 3-4. I see you shaking your head. Feels like you have something to say.
How many Zachariah branches before Denzel Boston's are we going to see?
Probably not that many. Also, honestly, in front of Antonio Williams as well.
Until, yeah, that's
Um,
big slide for Boston and kind of huge bump for Branch. Just kind of blows my mind, and then kind of knew it levels out as far as value. It's good to see Katron get a little bit of love given that landing spot there. So
well,
that makes sense. Back to back commanders right there.
yeah, for sure. That's our boy Daniel Hop. He
Daniel.
is a wonderful man and loves his Penn State running back. So he wanted to get both of them. I know. So I'm glad he did. But yeah, pairing him with Antonio Williams makes sense. And Branch, I mean, we liked Branch, so like I don't hate the landing spot
Yeah, of
necessarily.
course.
So it could end up working out. Potentially, but yeah, it's a little surprising to see him go in front of those guys. Next up at the 3-5, we had Mike Washington. That shocks me more that Jonah Coleman's still on the board, and we're seeing Katron Allen and Mike Washington and Emmett Johnson all go off the board. So that's a bit surprising. But so we had Mike Washington, Jeremy Bernard, Max Clare, and then Jonah Coleman at the 3-8. So I think that's huge value on Jonah Coleman.
Yeah, no, that's a nice slide right there. But you know, that's it all does kind of flip him around a little bit and this all makes sense. It's good to see the offensive guys start getting a bit of a run.
Yeah,
But
for sure. And it's, I mean, again, it speaks to, like we said in the For the Belt draft after about the 1-8, it's like, okay, well, you're really starting to just pick who you like, who you really feel good about. There's not as many I feel like if you looked at 20 different Dynasty rookie rankings, typically they'd all be in lockstep for at least most of the picks, but this year it's going to be all over the place, you know?
yeah, it's kind of cool because I don't know, it gives people who want to do their own research an edge, you know.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I guess someone did their research and thought Genty needed a backup. So there we
Yeah,
go, man.
that's fair.
Washed. They got no real pass game outside of Bowers, so we'll see what happens. Could be just ground and pound.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so next up at the 3-9, we had Nicholas Singleton go off the board. 3-10 for Fernando Mendoza. We should say this IDP league also single QB.
Sure.
So Mendoza at the 3-10, Michael Trigg at the 4-1, pretty crazy, and
Yeah.
then Trotter, the linebacker for Tampa Bay at the 4-2. Michael Trigg, um, that's a definitely a your guy type pick because I mean Jake Ferguson doesn't seem like he's going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I like Trig, but this landing spot was not really something to be chasing, in my opinion. Seems like the whole Dallas offense is unmodified from last year. So to put your I don't know to put it in right here, it's kind of a bold move. I guess I'd have to look at what they have for tight end depth, but I don't. I'm not buying it necessarily. So yeah, this is the same team that also took Stowers. So maybe they're just taking a few extra pokes at the position.
Yeah,
But
he
I
also
thought
had
that
a million picks. So
yeah, I'm looking at his yeah, that's insane. 8 picks, yeah. Whoever took Trotter, I mean, that's just a smart move right there. This
yeah, that's a good
guy's
move.
clear genius. No, that was me. Can't take too much credit, but Levante David retired and
Yeah,
he was on my squad. And I thought, hey, let's just keep it
just roll
going.
right into it. Yeah,
I thought, hey, this will happen. Also, yeah, there's another player I wanted that I didn't get on this draft, but that was my only IDP pick. It made me happy. I was happy to get him there.
make him a
4-2.
linebacker if you're only going to do one. That's for
That's
sure.
right.
All right, so now we had some pretty juicy wide receiver value. Elijah Surratt goes at the 4-3, Ted Hurst at the 4-4, Jacoby Lane at the 4-5, and then Kendrick Falk at the 4-6, rounding out those next four picks. Honestly, I feel like I wasn't paying close enough attention. I had a crazy weekend. I should have tried to trade in to the early fourth and take Hurst. I think that's incredible value for Hurst, as well as Surratt. And honestly, if you look at the actual draft value, Jacoby Lane is getting slept on a lot. Like he went before Surratt
Hmm.
to the Ravens, so like everyone's just picking Surratt over Lane, which I mean I agree with. I do like Surratt more, but if you look at what the team thought, you would think Lane would be the choice, you know?
Yeah, I think Lane is probably going to end up getting a lot of looks here. He went 25, 35 spots higher than Surratt. So we'll see what happens. I think it comes down to the red zone. I like Surratt a lot in the red zone, and Indiana did too. So if they can make that work, he might have his big time games. But I
Yeah.
think Lane might probably spend more time on the field.
Yeah. For sure. All right, so the next four we had Galladay go to the 4-7 linebacker for the Vikings. We had Chris Brazzell at the 4-8, Emmanuel McNeil Warren at the 4-9. That's a really, really good pick. Honestly, pairing him with Caleb Downs, like you should be set going forward at the safety spot. And then Kalen Black goes again at the 4-10. I'm still not a huge fan, but San Francisco running backs, who knows, might prove me wrong. Um, uh, yeah. Anything to say about those four?
Now that all reads pretty smooth, good value for sure.
Okay. All right. So we had Halsey, the defensive back for the Colts, go at the 5-1. That's a safety. Mr. Daniel Hop needed some defensive back help, so that makes a lot of sense there. Then Skylar Bell goes to you, sir, at the 5-2.
Yes.
R. Mason Thomas, the edge for Kansas City, goes at the 5-3, and Akeem Mesidor at the 5-4, edge for the Chargers.
Yeah, I like that. I was gonna take Messidor, but I went ahead and went for Skylar Bell because I need those offensive guys, and I thought he was slipping.
Yeah,
Um,
for
but yeah,
sure.
that's a nice pick for Danny, fortifying the Indianapolis secondary after Nick Cross is out of there. So
Yeah.
there's some opportunity to get some heat in there. But our Mason Thomas, we'll see how that plays out. Could be awesome, playing for the Chiefs. But I thought, yeah, it was a kind of a bold move.
Yeah. I mean,
We're kind of running out of guys here.
yeah, yeah, and that's the thing is we're grasping straws. Although there was two picks coming up that like kind of surprised me in terms of how far they fell. So
Yeah,
next up at the 5-5, we had Eli Heidenreich, and then we had Deshaun Stribling all the way at the 5-6. Pretty crazy. And then we had Stukes, the defensive back for the Raiders. Ty Simpson goes, and then I took Damon Claiborne as a flyer.
nice.
And then Malachi Fields rounds out the end of the draft. So I think Stribling and Fields there are insanely good value.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Obviously I took Bell over both of them, but um, I think Fields going to shock a lot of people. Stribling, I just have no clue, man.
Yeah.
I can't even with the Niners, and that's fine. I'll just avoid them. But I thought the Claiborne was pretty juicy at the 5'9". I mean, considering the potential there, I think you got a nice little stab there before we cut the film on this bad boy. Because if he had hit waivers, I imagine he would have got some,
Oh, for sure.
some LaFloy-esque high bid fab love.
Yeah, there were some defensive players that I was hoping would fall to the 5-9, but this was a very defensive IDP heavy draft,
Yeah,
even compared to our other ones. Like I feel like a lot
I
more
didn't pull the
defensive guys
numbers.
went in this draft, which you love to see, that's what you want out of an IDP league. But so I was a little shocked that all those guys went, and then I was probably going to take Stribling, and he went pretty much right before where I was at. So Claiborne, I like that he fell to me. I don't hate it. We'll see what happens. I think he could work his way into that room. I'm not scared of Jordan Mason, and I love Aaron Jones, obviously, but he is on the way out for sure.
Definitely. Did a quick count. That's one third of these players were IDP guys. It's
Man,
pretty
I'd like
good.
to go back and count the older leagues to see how that stacks up, but something tells me that this would be more, but we can talk about that maybe on a future episode. So that is the recap of our first two rookie drafts. We got another one coming up here in a couple days, which I actually have a first rounder for, so there we go.
Nice.
Exciting stuff. So we might do another little recap episode going forward because both those are super flex leagues. So,
Yeah.
but until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Have a good one, y'all. Good luck drafting.
Thinking we used to